So we're here to talk about the history of we. What was your inspiration for that?
Yes, so I am very excited about the history of we. It is my 10th picture book, and my first hand painted picture book. So it was a little bit of an experiment. But to go back to like I guess way back to the inspiration. Um, it kind of started when I was a kid in school, in Texas, and really just sitting in class and like history class and learning about, there's parts of the textbooks, the history textbooks that talk about like, you know, the dawn of humanity and all this stuff. And a lot of times they talk about the cradle of civilization. And so, but like they usually would say like, Mesopotamia, cradle of civilization. And they would say like it was 10,000 years ago when, humanity started to become civilized or whatever. And I always thought that was a little odd because I always heard stories about, the fact that we all come from Africa. And honestly, just there's like hundreds of thousands of years that were just skipped over in all the textbooks. And so, yeah, the idea and the fact is that every human on this earth can be traced back to her. And it's just kind of a lot of black kids hear about, we all come from Africa. But that part of human history, I feel like, has never properly been visually documented. So I really always wanted to make a book like this. And so, um, as I started to do more research, I was, all the facts kind of really aligned with the things that I had heard growing up about how, the first modern humans, I didn't know the exact date until I started doing the research, but it's about 233,000 years ago that we emerged. The oldest known, modern human fossils are in Ethiopia, in Omo Kibish in Ethiopia. And so that was kind of a great, point as an anchor just to say like, okay, this lines up with what I've kind of always heard. But now like I need to like research a little bit further. And the more I started to dig this up, I realized, okay, the facts also state that, you know, they were called modern humans because they had the same like skeletal structure as we do. They had the same brain capacity as us 200,000 years ago. They spoke sentences with nouns and verbs. They laughed and cried like we do. They were us. And so that really kind of hit home because, obviously there's a lot of like the stereotypical like, caveman, that kind of stereotype of like the Stone Age. But the Middle Paleolithic era, which is the Stone Age, was actually full of brilliant Africans. So I thought, hey, this needs to be a book.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
needed to fill in that history. And did it feel empowering too, to like you've heard all life comes from Africa, but to actually like piece it together? And how was that empowering?
It did. It was extremely empowering, and it is something that like I feel like on one hand, every person on earth needs to be reminded of, but especially young Black children. Um, I was actually working on a film art piece for Ava DuVernay's film Origin a couple years ago, and part of that film, there's this kid named Albright. It's a true story about a kid named Albright, 1940s, 50s. He wasn't able to go swimming with his, Little League Baseball championship team because of racism. And there's actually so many stories about, especially in the Black community, like young Black kids who don't know how to swim and afraid of the water, and their parents and grandparents were never allowed to go to the swimming pool, and there's just like this kind of a stigma thing. And so, I just wished I could have told like an Albright like face to face or so many young Black kids like, do you know like the first swimmer in human history looked like you? Like your ancestors invented swimming. You know that? And so that was kind of part of the whole, inspiration behind the whole thing. And it was that moment of empowerment really that I wish all the kids could have. And so that kind of translated into this piece, in the book, the first swimmer, and so this was actually one of the first concept sketches that I had for the book. And then I, kind of fleshed out the idea of the manuscript, and then, got to cracking with the paintings.
It's amazing that I know you shared that a little bit on social media too, that story of the swimmer, and that was really powerful to hear that. Yeah. There I feel you said this is your first one that you've painted, right? That
Right. Usually I do digital paintings, and I do speed paintings. My digital paintings, I try to make them feel like oil paintings. And so a lot of people think that my most of my art is oil paintings. They might even try to, buy an original, and I'm like, it's a JPEG, it's a digital piece. Um, but for this one, I did want to, make it, acrylic on canvas paintings. And part of that was just, just the challenge of I've never done this before. I want to try it. But also it really kind of goes hand in hand with the theme of the book, the idea of, the first people on Earth. I'm highlighting the first artists, ever, the first ones to literally crush rock and add water and make paint and throw it on a wall and start to tell creative stories visually. So I thought, why not make it a hand painted picture book?
it's really beautiful. It's definitely still your style, but it's neat. Like I
Thank
feel like you can
you.
feel the movement more and the emotion. One of my favorite is the dancing one where they're throwing the person.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But what was that like just challenging yourself to create movement and emotion? Yeah, like just that feeling of freedom is so
Yeah. I really wanted to kind of I feel like I don't know, it's something at the core of all of us. Like going back to the first modern humans is going back to the core of who we are, what we love to do as humans, the freedom of expression, like it's everything. Sometimes it's the fears and it's I don't know the joy of exploration. It's all the feelings that we can feel. We first felt, 200,000 years ago when we were just figuring out how to create the building blocks of society, And so I feel like that movement, that expression, that feeling, I wanted to have it in all of the paint strokes, Even at the very beginning, just I started the whole project with just a hand print. Like I put my hand on the paint and just like put it on the canvas like that. That was my first mark of the whole project. And then from there I just added everything, using sticks and leaves and sponges and brushes, palette knives, whatever it took to get that feeling of the first people.
And how does your son, inspire projects like this? You were mentioning you want young Black kids to be able to see themselves and know this history rather than more than just the oral history. But how does he inspire projects like this?
Oh man, my son inspires me every single day. He's 4, going on 5, going on 15 because he acts like a teenager already. Um, he's great. He's already walking around the house like this is the history of we. And like he already knew, he kind of got this idea from the artivist. The artivist kind of features a little kid that looks just like him, as this kid who can make art to save the world. And so he kind of embodies himself in the books now. But I want him to be able to see like his ancestry, his lineage, um, and when he opens up a book, and it's just something that I can't even put that into words. It's like one of the greatest gifts I feel like I could give him is to kind of like allow him to see himself in a picture book, especially a book that is about something as important as the dawn of civilization, the true dawn of civilization and humanity. And yeah, I think that's one of the reasons why I started doing picture books in the first place. I wanted to um allow so many a wider range of kids to be able to see themselves. And in this case, like I said, like usually I'm trying to be a voice for the voiceless or marginalized, or a tribute to ancestors. And in this case, it's not just my ancestors, but everybody's ancestors in the whole world, because the book basically says if you go back far enough, all of our roots begin to tell the same story. Like we can all be traced back to her. And so it's kind of that thing where I think if everybody can see that and see where we all come from, and it really kind of like makes it very trivial and ridiculous, the whole concept of racism. And when you understand that, you know, we only change skin color because some of our ancestors went to the cold part of the world with less sunlight, and so we have different hair texture, skin color. It's really not that big of a deal. Like we are literally all one human race. I mean, we talk a lot about how race is a social construct, right? And so this book kind of just drives that point home, like scientifically and factually. Like we literally don't need to continue to split ourselves up into other races because we are all Homo sapiens. Like that, it is what it is. With maybe long before 200,000 years ago, there were other races of people on the earth, but it's just us now. So it's us, we all we got, right? So yeah, that's the point of it all.
Yeah, that message is just so needed. I feel like that's one of those things we can hear and just we need to be reminded of it too in this day and age. And it just
Absolutely.
yeah. Was there anything that you learned in doing your research or in making this project that surprised you or that stood out as extra meaningful or important?
One of the things was just how long of a span of time that Africans were all over the earth. I mean, literally 200,000 years. I mean, you have at least like 100,000 years there where we were just in Africa, you know. Um, like I say in the book, like we were we were developing tools and inventions for survival, but also the arts for enjoyment, and doing that for 100,000 years. And then we decided to leave Africa, and for another basically 80, 90,000 years, I don't know, we were all over, the world, going Southeast Asia, Australia, into Europe, into the Americas, all of that. And so gradually our skin tone started to get a little bit lighter and lighter. And it really wasn't until 9,000 years ago that you have the full range of the skin tone spectrum. So there was a good 180,000 years there where it's just like black people on Earth, like, so that was kind of a mind-blowing realization as I'm doing all the research. And then, I was doing research on like, from Meave Leakey, who was like, one of the preeminent paleontologist in the world. And look, she has books like Sediments in Time, so many books on paleontology and just the middle Paleolithic era. And then once I finished the whole book, my publisher told me that, the book was going to be reviewed by the Leakey family, like the Leakey family, to make sure it was all accurate and everything. And I was like a little bit in shock, but it was okay. Everything was good. They gave me their stamp of approval, and they even like kind of like added in some little specifics, like 233,000 years ago, and just a little bit fine tuning to make sure everything was exactly as it is shown in research. So it is a little kind of like a National Geographic slice of history that I feel like everybody should be reminded of at all times and know about.
What an honor to have, yeah, that official stamp.
Yeah.
And even to your first point, I feel like we sometimes society today thinks we're so important and like, but we're a glimpse, we're a breath of vapor compared to like the
It's
that's
been a long time we've been doing these things. I
mm-hmm,
was talking to some kids today. I was talking to some students today at an elementary school about just the music. And one of the oldest like noise making instruments that was ever invented was over 100,000 years ago. It's basically like the little spinny stick that you pull the string and then goes zzz, that kind of thing. And the kids love that thing. And the kids are like, I have that toy and blah blah blah. I'm like, yeah, that was invented 100,000 years ago in Africa. We've been doing cool things for a long time, right?
yeah, that's really fun. And the timelessness of it too. Like kids are still mesmerized by those things. And
Yeah.
I know you did some work on Sinners and you have built a relationship with Ryan Coogler, but what was it like working on that project that had made such a big cultural impact and is going to be in cinematic history, really? Like, what was it like working on that?
That was so special. I'm just honored to have had a role in that project. Very thankful to Ryan Coogler. It's actually his birthday today. Shout out. I'm very thankful just to be able to be a part of any Coogler projects. I think me and Ryan got to LA kind of around the same time, and when I would see him like in Watts and different volunteer events and doing things. And when I would see him in certain places, even in Hollywood, I would just like show him my artwork and be like, "Hey, we should work together. We should do some stuff." And we eventually collaborated on Space Jam and some other, multiple other projects that he's worked on. Super thankful to him for, he's always pulling me in on whatever things he's working on, Black Panther, whatever. And for Sinners, to be the concept artist for the film, it's a surreal feeling. Like, um, it's kind of the thing where, Ryan will send me the script, I'll read it, and then he'll just like leave it in my hands, like, tell me what are the points that you feel like need to be visualized, and I'll sketch it out and send it to him. And so, yeah, it's a special feeling. And then he once, I at that point when I'm doing concept art, I do my thing. I give it to the team and I kind of just like let them run with it. And then a year later, I'm like, wow, okay, project's almost done. And so it was cool also that he tapped me to ask me to do the movie poster, one of the movie posters for the film. And so yeah, it's a surreal thing. It's special, and it's a genius film. Ryan is a genius. Just for it to be so like already ingrained in our in just in pop culture, but also just in Black culture, the different layers of the South and music, the blues. Um, I'm from Texas. Ryan has roots in the South. And it's just, man, it's just a gorgeous film that I think will live on forever and ever. So I'm very, very proud of that to just be a part of that.
It's so cool. And what does it mean to have someone like Ryan just as a fellow artist and storyteller? I know it was a big deal. The fact he has ownership in this film is a unique element to it, but what does it mean to just have community in that way?
It means a lot. Ryan is a great person. He's been super supportive of me and my art. Um, just I can't even put it into words. Like he's every step of the way, like for years he's been like supporting my art, supporting my vision, bringing me onto his projects. He's like dropped nuggets of wisdom at every step of the way, through films or just through, you know, his own, you know, his own life, just like the things that he does in life. And like we're always just like taking notes, you know. And so that's one of those, you know, intangible things. Like I can't really put into words. It's just like, you know, I I'm I'm really glad that you know, he's doing what he's doing as an icon, as a visionary, as a leader. He's doing incredible things. Yeah.
We all need those people to keep us
Yeah.
encouraged. Yeah, especially as artists, I think. Like it can be lonely or it can be,
Yeah.
am I doing the right thing? Like,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah.
And is that, you've worked with so many people and you've had people retweet your work. And at this point, is there a dream collab that you would like to work with?
Oh man. Yeah, when you mention like people retweeting my work, I think of Michelle Obama, and I'm like, hey, maybe I could maybe that would be cool to do a book with Michelle Obama. I'm just saying, I don't know. Yeah, that would be special. I don't know, Beyonce. I don't know. I don't know. I'm from Houston, so I had to shout out Queen Bee. But yeah, I don't know, there's so many folks that I would love to continue to you know, follow and possibly work on projects with.
Yeah, it'll be so fun to just see where your journey keeps going. It's been really neat to
Thank,
see you get so many different opportunities and make an impact in so many different lanes of culture.
thank you.
Yeah. Well, I think that's all that I had. Is there anything else you wanted to share about the history of we or what you're working on?
I just as I'm talking to young students about the book, I just feel like when I'm asked like what how can you describe the book, I feel like the phrase that I keep coming back to is educational justice, because it is kind of like that missing piece that I never had in school, that a lot of kids do not still have, as they're learning about human history. So it is, in a way, for me, I think it is educational justice, and I hope that, you know, we can start to have this conversation in schools. I do have a lot of banned books. Hopefully, this doesn't become a banned book just like the other ones, but you know, you never know these days. But I do think it does need to be in schools. I think, you know, even outside of schools, in community, just talking about our shared ancestry and um, what life was like, and how we can all hopefully come together as a, you know, global collective of extended cousins. You know, we need to come together. So, yeah.